In the city of Montreal, there's a biotech company responsible for all the golf courses in the city. This company invented a chemical substance that, when sprayed on the grass, keeps it looking as good as new. They use this substance on the courses to melt snow in the winter and keep the grass fresh all year long, so the wealthy could play anytime without any problems. The next day, we see Dan, a police officer, buying a lot of food and supplies for his home because he's obsessed with the idea of surviving under harsh conditions, listening to programs all day that talk about that. At night, we see him trying to make fire in a primitive way, then experimenting with igniting an explosive material he got from bullets, causing a small explosion that burns part of his face. At the golf club, we see Patricia, Dan's daughter, working as an assistant for the golfers, while Michelle, the CEO of the biotech company, is with two wealthy golfers. Michelle explains to them how they managed to keep the grass healthy thanks to his company and the chemical they spray. But the particles from the chemical spread into the soil and contaminate the water across the entire island. A man named Jacko drinks tap water before going to work, then buys fruits and vegetables from a big store. At the store, they rinse the fruits with water and spray shelves and surfaces to keep everything fresh. Jacko feels tired and dizzy but ignores it and heads home. Once home, he notices his teeth have turned green and he's having severe stomach pain. He tries to brush his teeth, but the color won't change. Soon, he turns into a zombie and attacks his wife in the bathroom, turning her into a zombie too. Their eyes both turn green. Michelle and Patricia, along with the wealthy clients, return to the company's main building and find no one outside. Suddenly, someone exits the building, yelling that they need to escape immediately because everyone has turned into monsters. At the same time, a group of employees rushes out after them, and a dog comes out and attacks a wealthy woman, biting her neck. They manage to fend the dog off. Then, a large crowd of zombies chases them, and the woman also turns into a zombie. They hide inside the building and close the door, but the dog manages to get in and bites the rich man in the leg. They lock him in a room while zombies gather at the door trying to break it. The rich man turns into a zombie from the dog bite and attacks Michelle, but she escapes and grabs a knife to defend herself. An elderly woman calls Dan asking for help because her noisy neighbors are fighting, but she too turns into a zombie and attacks him. Dan escapes to his car and locks himself in. He tries calling for help, but no one answers. He notices that zombies are surrounding the car on all sides. He calls his daughter Patricia, but she doesn't answer as she's busy trying to escape the zombies. Dan decides to search for her and rescue her, taking a police car, his own car, and a lot of weapons. Meanwhile, a teenage boy named Andrea goes to take care of his little sister, but his mother tells him not to drink tap water and to use bottled water from the fridge. Andrea hasn't drunk tap water since he was a child, so he drinks cold water. His mother starts feeling dizzy and tired. Soon, she turns into a zombie and tries to attack him, but he escapes outside. She chases him, but before she can reach him, she's hit by the officer's car and survives. Andrea tries to help her, but Dan tells him to hide in the house and lock it. Andrea refuses to leave his mother, drags her inside, and locks the house securely. He calls for help and hears a recorded message saying the entire island is under quarantine at the bridge connecting it to the city. A large number of zombies try to breach the gates but fail. No one can get in or out. The mother tries to attack Andrea, but he pushes her away and hides with her in the bathroom. He notices the shower running, so they sit under it. Meanwhile, his little sister Annie cries, attracting the zombies' attention. Andrea grabs her and covers her with blankets to keep her crying from being heard by the zombies. A little while later, Andrea's cat comes back through the pet door in the house. Suddenly, a zombie reaches its hand through the door, trying to grab Andrea, who quickly runs away and hides. After that, everything goes quiet. There's no movement or sound from the zombies. Andrea grabs a golf club and heads toward the zombies, but he doesn't hit them. Instead, he leaves them and walks through the golf club building. Meanwhile, Patricia hides in the garage and calls her dad to come rescue her. Dan arrives quickly, but on the way, he runs into a group of zombies. He fights them off, killing a large number, and manages to get into the building and close the door. At the same time, the police are at the bridge because the army has arrived, securing the main areas with planes after cutting the power. The next day, Annie's babysitter tries to cross the bridge to get to work but finds it destroyed. Andrea watches a press conference where the Minister of Security announces that they destroyed the bridge connecting the island to the city to isolate it, and reassures that they have full control of the situation. At that moment, Andrea's phone battery dies, and he notices that the babysitter's body is covered in a sticky green substance. Annie approaches, and her mother tries to attack her, but Andrea distracts her with some vegetables she likes, guiding her safely. He quickly gets her out of the bathroom, but she accidentally hits a TV stand, which falls on her, killing her. Andrea has no choice but to return her mother's body to the bathroom. He notices green grass growing over her wounds. He tries to use her phone to call for help, but it's broken. Andrea then grabs a ladder, looks outside, and sees zombies standing calmly in the sun. He takes his little sister and rushes out, running toward the supermarket, with zombies chasing him. He reaches the supermarket door, finds it closed, and suddenly realizes he's surrounded. Just then, the door opens, someone pulls him inside, and closes it quickly. It turns out that Dan, who's been there since yesterday, saved him. Dan tells Andrea that he doesn't know what to do next because the police have taken all the boats and blocked all the roads. They're trapped. At night, they feel freezing cold. Andrea goes to get milk for his little sister and sees a zombie trapped behind the glass. It's Patricia, Dan's daughter, who got infected. Dan brought her here hoping to find someone who could treat her. At the golf club building, Michelle has locked all the doors and manages to communicate with the company staff, who reassure him that experts are on their way and will fix the problem, but he has to follow their instructions until they arrive. At that moment, the dog that turned into a zombie appears. Michelle tries to kick it away. We also learn that Michelle killed his friend who became a zombie. Dan and Andrea light a fire to cook food, while listening to their favorite radio program. The announcer says the zombie outbreak is caused by terrorists. Then, Security Minister Steve appears, and reporters ask him many questions, but he evades them and gives confusing answers. The announcer reports that the government plans to sacrifice everyone on the island to contain the virus and prevent it from spreading to other cities. Dan manages to call them, explaining that many people on the island are not infected but don't know how to escape. The announcer replies that the world doesn't want the infection to spread beyond the island. Dan feels hopeless because there's no way out. He talks with Andrea, and they realize they need to find the cause of the outbreak to develop a cure. After thinking, Dan concludes that the water must be the source of the infection, since everyone uses it, and that the terrorists probably poisoned it. Andrea isn't fully convinced. Shortly after, the three of them leave the supermarket with Patricia, covering her head with a cage to prevent her from infecting anyone. They encounter a large group of zombies with sticky green substance on them. A small zombie girl attacks Dan, but he pushes her away without killing her because she's a child. They get in their car and drive away, with the zombies chasing them, but they manage to leave the area safely. At the same time, the biotech company sends 2 armed experts to the golf club, killing any zombies in their way. Michelle burns contracts and secret documents, and tests a small amount of the chemical they sprayed on the grass. The experts enter the building and find Michelle hiding. He takes a bag containing infection cure balls, and one expert drinks the chemical. Back with Dan and Andrea, they soon reach the water station. They leave Annie alone in the car so that the zombies won't hear her crying and attack. They take Patricia with them and enter the water station, where they find a zombie covered in grass hiding in a large water tank. Patricia senses it and runs toward it, with both Dan and Andrea following. Patricia jumps into the water to save it, but suddenly a grass-covered zombie emerges from the water. It doesn't attack Dan because it sees Patricia with him. Andrea realizes that zombies do not attack each other or anyone with them. The zombies hear Andrea's voice and run toward him to attack, so he runs quickly and escapes the building. Dan tries to pull Patricia out of the water tank, but unfortunately, he pulls too hard and her hands get cut off. At that moment, Andrea manages to escape from all the zombies chasing him and jumps into the car at the last second with Patricia, using her as a shield to protect himself from attacks. Finally, they get in the car, and Andrea notices a phone with Patricia. They open it with her severed hand and see that grass has started growing on her hand. Dan can't believe what's happening and can't comprehend how grass is growing like that on human bodies. He tells Andrea, "It's not because of the terrorists, it's the golfers themselves at the golf club." Meanwhile, the experts are smashing the balls they brought on the grass to get rid of any evidence. Later, Dan and Andrea drive to the golf club and see thick, strange-colored smoke rising from the grass. Andrea records everything on his phone. They head to the company building, which is locked. Dan searches for an entrance, and when he can't find one, he climbs onto the roof and opens a door for Andrea to enter. Once inside, they bring Patricia into a room and lock it. Andrea sits next to his little sister and secures her with chairs so she won't leave her spot. Then Dan and Andrea go looking for anything useful in the building and find the dog lying on the floor, its body covered in grass. At that moment, Dan feels dizzy, and Annie starts crying. When Andrea hears her, he runs to calm her, but discovers she's left her spot, so he starts looking for her. Meanwhile, Dan goes down a secret hallway and finds a set of bombs connected to explosives placed all over the place to block him. Eventually, he reaches a secret room with a timer for the explosion. Exhausted, Dan falls and can't reach the timer, so he grabs Patricia's hand and manages to stop it. Immediately, his eyes turn green. Outside, the experts are waiting for the explosion, but it doesn't go off, so they realize something's wrong and enter the building again. They find Annie in the kitchen drinking the chemical substance. Andrea, on his way to find her, sees Michelle, who has turned into a zombie, locked in a room. Andrea finds his sister and takes her with him. Along the way, the two experts try to force Annie to drink the chemical, but before they can, she turns into a zombie and bites one of the experts. Suddenly, Dan appears and attacks the other expert, biting her neck. While Andrea tries to escape, he steps on one of the cure balls, which explodes, filling the room with smoke. Everyone inhales it. Andrea runs away quickly, with Dan chasing him. Andrea hides in the kitchen, but Dan notices him before passing by and leaves him alone. The two experts fight each other with fire before turning into zombies and dying simultaneously. Andrea grabs Dan's phone and calls Patricia's phone. When he finds it, he records a video explaining what happened and asking for someone to come rescue them as soon as possible. The video spreads quickly on the news. Andrea enters the building, places Dan in a room, and locks it so he stays with his daughter. The government quickly sends planes to the island to rescue them and eliminate any zombies they encounter. The soldiers carry guns and kill anyone in their path, whether infected or not. Andrea goes out to help, but sees them killing a healthy person, so he hides. He keeps Patricia's hand with him to use in creating a vaccine for the virus. Andrea realizes the soldiers didn't come to save the people. Meanwhile, Annie recovers and returns to normal, and so does Dan. As soon as the soldiers enter the building, they kill Dan and burn him. Later, the Minister of Security holds a press conference, announcing that they have contained and eliminated the infection. He drinks from a cup with the biotech company's logo, revealing he was part of the conspiracy. Annie walks freely again, while Andrea sees countless corpses of healthy people killed by the army. From a distance, he spots a boat in the river with volunteers coming to rescue them, including Annie's babysitter. They reach Andrea and take him and his sister on board. During the trip, Andrea throws Patricia's hand into the water since it's no longer useful. Everyone on the island has been killed, but the fish swarm around the hand, eat it, and it turns into a zombie. And with that, we reach the end of our movie. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.